Hello, everybody. My name is Riley Harris. I am the Mental Health Programs Coordinator here at NAMI Maine, and today I'm going to be doing a brief instructional video on the Connect Apricot database that NAMI Maine is using in order to help us collect CIT data from participating police departments across the state of Maine. What we're looking at right here is just a brief little instructional guide. And I'm going to make sure that I send this out to each of the regional councils to make sure that every participating police department can have access to this. It's a general overview, and the hope of this video is that after I go through this briefly, is that I'll go through step by step the actual process of filling out a CIT form on the Apricot database and how to log in, how to log out, stuff like that. Hopefully answer any questions anybody has within a police department along the way. So this right here is the main login screen that will pop up every time you try to log into Apricot. You'll put in your email and your password. You'll click sign in. The first time you go through it, you'll have to create a password, but normally you'll just see this prompter, put in this email, password, and hit sign in. So once you hit sign in, it'll dump you out right here. And this is what's called the dashboard. And the dashboard, it looks a little bit busy, it looks a little bit confusing, but the only big things you really need to know is this is the form right here, CIT incident data. Just click fill out and it'll bring you to the form. And every time you complete a form, you'll hit save and it'll dump you out right here again into the dashboard. You'll click fill out and you'll just keep doing that process until you've completed all of the data collection that needs to happen for that day, that week, that month, that quarter, however your department decides they want to collect data and send it over to NAMI. The only other thing of note on the dashboard is this information up here. So say this doesn't match your name, you can click on this little down arrow. It'll give you a prompt there that'll say something about account information. You'll click on that and you can change any of that account information there if it doesn't match who's actually filling it out. Also, from this down arrow, you'll be able to log out. And this is just here on this little instructional guide. This is the bottom right hand of the actual form itself. It's just here to remind you you have to hit save. And that's that. So now I'm going to go into an actual step-by-step in-depth on the whole process of getting set up on Apricot to completing your first form. So this is what the actual email itself will look like once we set somebody up within a department with an account. You'll get an email from noreply@socialsolutions.com. It's very easy. You just click on this link right here and it'll bring you to the login screen. The only issue that some police departments have been having with this email is that your firewalls might be too good and it might filter an email from an unknown sender like Social Solutions out. So if that happens, you might want to talk to your network administrator to make sure that you have access to this email. So that email will bring you to this next screen. Now this is the login page for the Apricot Connect. My information is already saved in here because I've logged in before. The original, what you'll see when you click on that link is a prompt there telling you need to change your password. So you just change your password, and then every time you'll log in from this page. So I recommend bookmarking this URL right up here. Click sign in. It'll take a second to load, and here's the dashboard. So this is my dashboard, and the big things are, I've got my account information up here that I can change if I want to. Change all of that, go back to my dashboard. Here is the CIT incident data form. This is really the big thing that you need to know. And here's the form itself. So a little bit about the form itself. Anything with a red asterisk on it right now is required, and we can change these. We can change what's required if police departments are finding that it's a chore to do some of these. we can always take that required asterisk off of some of them. But right now, what they're on is just the incident number, the responding police department, because that's data that we really want to know. We want to be able to track what's going on based on police departments, and we want that to be a resource for the police departments themselves, so that if they reach out to us and ask like, hey, how are we doing with our data, we're able to harvest it really quickly and send it out. But most of the rest of the required questions are all ones that CIT regional councils have been agreeing to track for us. So the incident number. This can really be anything, but I recommend doing it the way that your police department tracks its call log data. And I know that for a lot of police departments, this is just like something like 2020-9876 or something. We'll say this is the 9,876 call that a department has received. Another really neat feature about the form here itself is that there are little question marks here, little question mark prompters that you can click on, and it'll tell you a little bit more about what we're asking for. So if the incident date is something that you want us to track, it's important that you do it in that exact format. The county is also not required, but it's here, and it's a good demonstration for how smart this form is. So essentially, you can navigate your entire way through this form just by hitting the tab button. And say, this is a police department in Cumberland County. I just type in C, and it'll auto-populate. Responding police department, say it's Portland PD. I just type PO, Portland Police Department auto-fills in. To the next one, crisis caused by. Let's say that this crisis was caused by mental health. I type in mental health, and it'll auto-populate. The other options for this one are substance use, both or unknown or unreported. So it's important to realize that even for these required ones, they're often unknown or unreported options, so that just in case it wasn't actually reported in the Spillman file that you're looking at, you can always choose unknown or unreported, and that'll get you past the prompter that will ask you, hey, like you haven't done all of the required ones. So you can always get past that. You can always just put unknown or unreported if you don't know. Presenting mental health challenges. So this one might be a little bit confusing, but essentially all it is if you know that this person has something like depression and a diagnosis of PTSD, then you just fill it in. And you can do as many commas as you want, and it doesn't really matter what you put in there. And it's not a required one. Disposition of call is a required one by CIT International. So here are the options. The only things of note here is that it might be confusing to see both stabilized on scene and stabilized on site. We've been seeing police departments tracking it as both, so we put them both here. It does not matter. If you don't have to be consistent with it, you can choose either of these. And then the only other thing is if jail is the disposition of the call, we want to know why. We want it, so that's why this one is here. So this one only needs to be filled out if jail was selected. And that's so if there was already an outstanding warrant for somebody's arrest, we don't want to count that against, a CIT officer or a non-CIT officer for, failing to de-escalate the scene. No, they didn't fail to de-escalate the scene. There was just an outstanding warrant. So referral made, a lot of the CIT regional councils are choosing to include this. So if the responding officer made a referral to crisis, like that. If the referral that they made is not within any of these options, you can always choose other and list it right here. The referral, you can also do none, and you can also do decline services / referral, because a lot of times the responding police officer will make a referral and the person will just decline it. Other referrals, like I just said, you just fill in any. You can list them by commas, does not matter. Then injury occurred. This one is pretty self-explanatory. The only one that's a little bit confusing is this one right here. So individual in crisis prior to police contact. This is important because we don't want to count injuries that have happened before the responding officer actually got there against CIT or non-CIT officers. And then here's one that is pretty self-explanatory as well, that CIT International requires. But the only thing that's a little bit confusing about this is that, you know, there are always going to be multiple officers that are responding to many of these calls. So we just want you to fill this out based on the primary officer, the first one on the scene. And then other questions. So I'll say yes for this one. I'll say no injuries had occurred. I'll change this to that, ERED. And then here's some optional other questions that some police departments have been wanting to track. Was the respondent suicidal? Yes or no? The referral source of the call. Now this one's just another fill-in, and it's auto-prompting me to do community crisis line. A lot of police departments want to track where their actual calls are coming from. So you can fill it in here. So we'll say that this call came from the community crisis line. And then lastly, here's this optional question about a community co-response. And this is a good one to look at the little question mark for. So did community organizations like a crisis mobile unit or mental health professional respond with the police department? So yeah, that's really what it's asking. Was there an actual community co-response? And this is a big thing with CIT. We want to know how often, you know, a crisis mobile unit, you know, if they're making the referral, how often are they going out there with you? But if you don't know it, and I'll say for this example that I don't know it, you can always just leave it blank because it's not one of the required ones. So after you've completed all of the necessary information, so all of the ones that have the red asterisk are answered, hopefully I've done this correctly. Once you've done that and you've put in any other information that you want on the form, all you have to do is hit save. And it'll prompt you, it'll say, are you ready to submit this response to CIT incident data? You'll say yes. And it'll bring you back out to the dashboard. You'll get this green little success check mark here. You'll click fill out again, and it'll bring you to the form again, and you will fill that out until you have no more data left. Then you'll just hit that, click log out, and you'll be good to go. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Riley, the mental health programs coordinator at NAMI Maine. My email is mhfa@namimaine.org, but hopefully this has demystified Apricot a little bit and has shown that it's a pretty user-friendly software. Thanks so much for listening.